Hello, I'm Ashley from Through the Loop Yarn Craft, and today we are going to make the Benson Hot Pad. This hot pad is double thick and extra textured, perfect for all your hot pad kitchen needs. We're going to make this pattern using just a variation of single crochet, so keeping it pretty simple for you. And to get the double thick pattern, it's nice and thick here, you can see. We're going to be working in the round and then seaming the ends together after we've made our loop for hanging. For this pattern, you're going to want to use number 4 worsted weight cotton yarn. We are also going to be making this pattern using 2 strands of yarn held together, and that gives us that little extra bulk to it as well. We will be working in continuous rounds as well, so having a stitch marker handy to mark your first stitch is a good way to keep track if you want to keep close count on your rows. We're also going to use a 6mm crochet hook. So if you're ready to make an awesome extra thick pot holder for your kitchen or for gift giving, let's grab our supplies and make the Benson Hot Pad. All right, so we are ready and we have our yarn and our hooks. And we are going to be working, as I mentioned previously, with 2 strands of the yarn held together. And we're going to start with quite a long tail because we're going to use this tail to seam this end together. Now, what you can do and what I did was not both tails need to be as long because we only need one for seaming. So I'm going to pull one longer than the other. And I'd say probably a good 48 inches or so. You want to keep it nice and long. And then we'll just start, add the next one in, and then make your slip knot. So we've got one short tail, but long enough to weave in, and one nice long tail so that we can seam that end together at the end. So now we are ready, and we're going to do a chain to begin, and then we're going to join the chain together so that we can work this pattern in the round. So to begin, we're going to start with a chain of 50. And remember to keep those 2 strands of yarn held together. almost at the end of round 1, and we want a total of 50 single crochets for round 1. And there's 50. So since we're working in continuous rounds, we are not going to slip stitch to the next stitch. We are just going to go right ahead and start working the next stitch. So this is where having a stitch marker, if you want to keep track of your rounds, comes in handy. If you don't want to keep track of your rounds and just keep going until you have measurements that you're looking for, then you can just keep going till you're at your 8 inches or so and don't need to count your rounds. So round 2 is our repeat round. So round 2 and every round after this is going to be exactly the same. And we're going to be working single crochet in the back loop only. In this case, it'll be loops because we are using the double strand. So what that will look like is every time we make a single crochet, we're just going to put it in the back loop only. Make sure you're picking up both those loops because we're acting as that double strand is just one. We're going to do that instead of going under the V or both loops. Otherwise, the stitch is just the normal single crochet, but this is what's going to give us that nice ridged textured look. So for round 2, we're going to start with a single crochet in the back loop only in the first stitch and in each stitch around. And that's all this is. We're just going to do 50 single crochet in the back loop only all the way around. And when we get to the end of this round, we will not slip stitch to the first stitch to join the rounds. We will just keep going in one big, long, continuous round. Again, this is why it can be handy to not count your rounds if you choose and just go by height and measuring until you get your 8 inches. Because this one that I made is an 8 by 8. Or if you prefer, just keeping a stitch marker in the first stitch so you can keep track of your row count. So we're just going to continue that all the way around. And as you can see, this gives you the nice ridged look. So go ahead and complete round. tie that off there with that slip stitch. Then we're going to cut one of our strands, again, shorter than the other, and leave the next one nice and long. Again, so we can finish seaming that across. So we're just gonna now finish pulling that through to kind of tie that bit off. Now that our ends were cut nice and long there. And now you can either take the shorter end and weave it in on the inside, or just stick it in and like tuck it in there. Right now I'm just going to tuck that in, but we can weave that in as well. Okay, so now we are ready to seam this top closed. So I'm just going to insert my hook to this first stitch here and pull up that loop and chain 1 to get started. And now we are ready to seam that together. To do that, we're just going to make sure we slip stitch through both sides. So going right back into that same stitch under all 4 loops, 1 on each side there, and just working across, slip stitching that closed. And making sure to go through both sides. So just slip stitch that all the way across, and then we can move to the bottom part. All right, now I'm on that last stitch there to slip stitch together, and we can go ahead and tie that off. And there we go. We are seamed closed. So now you can weave in that end, and we are ready to move on to the opposite side. So again, you can sew in or just tuck in the shorter end, and we're going to work the exact same way as we did the other side. So I'm just going to get started with a chain 1 for a loop, and then working. Today. I hope you enjoyed making the Benson Hot Pad. As you can see, it looks just as fabulous in the navy yarn as it does the gray. And if you want to see how it looks in some multicolored yarns, my testers did some great jobs, and they are posted over on the blog post, which is also linked below, and you can go see how theirs turned out. While you're here, I do invite you to hit that like and subscribe button. Let me know you're watching, and that way you'll always be notified when I have new videos and tutorials out as well. Again, thank you so much for joining me. I just love crocheting along with you and can't wait to do it again next time.